Cape Cod Broadcasting weaves the listening environments of 99.9 WQRC, Ocean 104.7, WFCC Classical 107.5, Cape Country 104, and CapeCon.com's website experience to reflect the lifestyles of the people who live, work, and play on Cape Cod. We hope that you enjoy this podcast.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. I'm here in the studio with Bryony Scudder and Mike Trovato from Sail Cape Cod, a relatively new nonprofit here in Hyannis. Welcome to the show to you both.
Oh, thank you, Laura.
Thank you for having us.
Let's start by explaining what Sail Cape Cod is, because this is a relatively new effort.
Sure. Sail Cape Cod is a community sailing program. We started our operations about 3 years ago. This is our third year of operation, and we're a 501c3 nonprofit community sailing program, as I said. And it was started by a group of avid sailors who saw the need for a community sailing program here in the Mid-Cape. There's a community sailing program in the Upper Cape, there's one in the Lower Cape, but we didn't have one in the Mid-Cape. And we felt it important that we start a community sailing program here.
As you mentioned, there are some other sailing programs around the Cape. What made you feel like you needed to start one in the Mid-Cape specifically?
Well, there's a lot of people here in the Mid-Cape that aren't being serviced in need for sailing. We feel that between the youth segment here on the Mid-Cape, and also we do a lot of community outreach to special needs groups, specifically to disabilities, working with disabilities organizations, and also with at-risk programs.
And what is it about sailing that you feel like everyone should participate in this?
Sailing is a great sport. It's very empowering. Once you get out on the water, you just feel this freedom of being out there, one communing, one with nature. And I think it's a way to leave your troubles on the shore and get out there on the water. And it's also a very equalizing sport, because you really don't need for instance, you don't need to have the ability to use your legs to sail, for instance. You can do that with just upper body mobility. So that's one of the reasons we target the disabilities as a sport for the disabled community.
And, of course, we're surrounded by water here, but many people don't know how to sail and have never been out in the water this way.
That's exactly right, and we want to expose the sport. We have a great love for it, and we want to have other people sharing it.
And I remember, Mike, when you first started this nonprofit, that there were a lot of well-known local people on your board that came together for this. Yeah,
we have some very good board of directors and volunteers as well. Our board is made up of a mix of people, both local town officials as well as the private sector, some business owners, a lot of folks involved with the sailing community itself in the sailing industry. Matt Wake from Sturgis Boatworks, for instance, Garen Peterson from Cape Cod Sea Camp, two good examples of folks from the private sector that have ties to sailing already and share that love for the sport.
And one aspect about sailing, people think of it as a relatively expensive sport to get into, and I guess that's really one of the major reasons behind a community sailing program. So people who might feel, well, I could never be able to do this sport, you want to have it reach out to those people. Isn't that right?
Exactly. That's the whole purpose of community sailing is it's affordable sailing. In most cases, in our case, a lot of it is we offer services for free, especially in our outreach programs. And we do our other programs are very cost effective.
And I remember when I first talked to you about this, although several years ago, that I think you mentioned that some of the people that started this were inspired by something that the late Senator Ted Kennedy said. Is that right? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, this certainly the senator loved sailing and was very passionate about it. And I think he shared that vision for getting more people out on the water here on the Cape. He definitely was a champion of this sport and of these types of programs.
Now, Bryony, you're in charge of the different programs of Sail Cape Cod. I know you have a whole range of programs. What are the different categories of programs you guys have?
Sure. We have three major programs that we deal with. The first is adult lessons. We offer adult lessons Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Evenings, which is a great time to be out on the water. We sail in Lewis Bay. The lessons are a drop-in rate this summer. So people can register by 5 o'clock the day before, get on our boats. I recommend 4 to 6 lessons to at least get comfortable sailing. And we've had great success with those, again, trying to figure out the kinks with the weather and things like that. So in the 3rd year, we think we've got a system that we'll figure out.
And you call that drop-in, and so, as you say, you can decide the day before and come by and decide. It's not that you have to do 6 in a row. You could skip a week, and it's not a big deal.
And you can register on our website, sailcapecod.org, for those lessons.
Now,
there's more information there.
And do those fill up? Are those hard to get into?
They do. They do fill up pretty rapidly. We have some availability right now, but I think as the summer draws a little closer and the weather keeps getting nicer, people will start thinking about being out on the water and sailing.
How many spots do you have in that?
I have 6 spots per night.
And so people can drop in with no experience, per se?
Yep. And the nice thing about these drop-in rates, too, I do recommend the 4 to 6 lessons. To get to know sailing. But if you have never sailed before and you want to give it a try, you can, drop in for one night, get a feel for the boat. I'll still, make you do things. But then decide if this is something that you really want to do. And, it goes along with Sail Cape Cod's mission, which is to get people on the water and give people access to sailing.
And you're the one who's actually out there doing the teaching?
I am. I've written all the lesson plans, and I'm a teacher by profession, so I'm pretty strict about people following things.
Now, what do you find is the average type of person who comes to an adult sail class?
It depends. We've had young people in their 20s and 30s. We've had older retired people who just moved to the Cape. We've had people visiting. We have a wide range. People who have never been on a boat, people who have spent some time on a boat, people who consider themselves sailors from childhood and haven't done it in a while. So really everyone is welcome, and I can tailor the lessons to meet people's needs.
And what are the prices of those?
It's $30 a lesson.
Okay. And as you said, you recommend people take 4 to 6 of those lessons.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then what kinds of boats are you out on?
We have 2 day sailors, 17-foot day sailors. And then we also just purchased our adaptive boat, which is in Far East 18, which we purchased from Sturgis Boat Works, which sort of goes into our other programming. So we have our adaptive sailing programming, which we're hoping to run on Saturday mornings. The town has allowed us to install a Hoya-type lift at the Gary Brown ramp, which is over by Cape Cod Hospital, to be able to get people with more serious physical disabilities out on the water. So we also have the opportunity to use that boat for our lessons, and as much as possible.
And so we should really get into that adaptive sailing program. That's such a big part of what you're doing, and, and you have this new boat, I think, just this spring. Isn't that right?
Yep. We just purchased the boat. And in a way, we've sort of been doing adaptive sailing for the past 2 years. We've partnered with a bunch of outreach groups, as Mike had mentioned earlier, like Capabilities, Community Connections, Arc of Cape Cod, the Riverview School, a whole bunch of groups on the Cape, and taking their individuals with more developmental disabilities out on the water. And it's been really wonderful. You asked earlier about why sailing, and I work with kids with autism for my daily job. And I think that there's such a peacefulness with sailing and a peacefulness getting people out on the water, and we've really found that's been true over the past 2 years. We've been able to get altogether almost 300 people out on the water who wouldn't otherwise be able to have access to the water. So it's been really nice. So we do that aspect of adaptive sailing, but then we've also purchased this other sailboat to allow for people with more physical disabilities to be able to get out on the water.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. I'm talking to Bryony Scudder and Mike Trovato about Sail Cape Cod. And you're talking about this adaptive sailing program. And so when you've taken people out into the water, it's someone like you has been sailing the boat and the people have been passengers. But now this new boat allows someone with disabilities to actually sail the boat. Isn't that right?
Yes, they'll have a little bit more opportunity to be more involved in the sailing aspect. One of the adaptations that we're planning on doing is a seat in the center of the boat so that they'll have access to all of the jib sheets and the forward lines to be able to participate and to, empower them a little bit and feel like they're actually doing something on the boat and working to power the boat.
What kind of comments have you gotten from the people you've taken out, particularly the people with disabilities?
We've had people tell us that it was the best day of their life, that their group have We had one group that came in on buses that were arguing the whole time, and we ended up taking them out on some bigger boats for a little bit of a longer sail. And by the end, they were rigging the boats themselves. They were getting along, and these were a group of at-risk teens. And it was just really wonderful to see that happen. We've had other people tell us that it was the best trip that they did with their group all summer. And you can see it in their faces. I mean, we have people tell us a lot, but we also see it.
We also get we've had feedback from the family members of the clients that do come out, and we've had them remark to us just what impact it's had on them when they come back home. Sort of the grinning ear to ear kind of thing, or talking about it at length after the fact. So it really sticks with them, the impression of the positive impact that it had on them being out on the water.
And you also have, I believe, is it Miss Massachusetts who is involved in this?
Yep. That's Laurel Labden is our honorary chair for our adaptive sailing program. Laurel is a lifelong sailor. She is actually a former Miss Wheelchair Massachusetts. Laurel was paralyzed in an automobile accident, but was sailing all her life prior to that. One of her missions now is to expose this sport to other folks with disabilities because she knows what impact it has on her, and just she's never lost that love for the sport as a disabled person.
And for people who might know disabled people who this program might be able to help them, are they able to get in touch with you, or do you sort of reach out to different groups? How does that all work?
Sure. We've mostly been focusing on working in collaboration with partner organizations, as Bryony mentioned. It's actually the easiest way for us to work at this current structure with our limited infrastructure because we can work with those staff of those organizations, and they can bring the clients down, provide the transportation, give us assistance at the dock and even on the boats if required. They're obviously better able to deal with the different disabilities that their clients have. We're still learning how to work with that, and that's a main goal of ours, in the coming weeks and months for this year for the adaptive program, but also going forward. We're looking for more formalized training in dealing with that. But we certainly welcome people to contact us as well on an individual basis. We're going to try to work with that as well. It's just a little easier to work right now with the disabilities organizations for the adaptive program, just because they can consolidate and make it a little easier to match us up with the clients in need. But we certainly welcome that opportunity if we can do at all make that work with one-on-one with individuals. But we do have a limited time element this year in year one because we're sort of in a we're in beta mode, so to speak, with the program in terms of getting to know the equipment, getting to know the how to work with the different levels of disabilities, and also because we don't have a facility, we are kind of working off the dock, and it does make it a little tougher to coordinate that on an ad hoc basis.
And you mentioned your year one because I guess while you formed and the idea came about a few years ago, is this really the first year that you're sort of on the water?
This is the first year for the physical part. We're dealing with physical disabilities. This will be because this boat that we've acquired and are finishing to retrofit for adaptive use is designed to deal with sailors with physical disabilities. So we did not have the capability in our day sailors, for instance. The regular program boats are not designed for folks with physical disabilities. So this will be our first year in working with physical disabilities.
But we have been running our adult lessons and the outreach lessons for the past 2 years. So this is our third year with that, but our first year with the adaptive, physically adaptive part. And
of course, the adaptive. I think we mentioned Matt Wake made this special boat at Sturgis Boat Works. Is that right?
The boat is actually it's a boat made overseas. It's a line of boats that Matt is a distributor for North America, and he's actually going to retrofit this boat specifically for adaptive purposes. So we're actually customizing the boat in our own way. There are not a lot of adaptive boats coming out of a production facility for sailboats because even though the demand is there, the capabilities of programs being able to run adaptive is limited. So we have to virtually customize this thing to make it work in dealing with different disabilities. What it gives us the benefit of doing is we can sort of tailor this, and we may create more add-on equipment to this boat, maybe other boats, depending on which disability, what someone might need. For instance, in this boat, it will have a slide bench on the skipper position that is portable and can come in and out on a modular basis. The front seat that Bryony mentioned would be more of a bucket seat with harness capability, and that again is modular, can come in, come out. So, depending on who we have at that point in time, whether someone that may want to skipper the boat and may have upper body strength and mobility, can drive the boat from the slide bench. If someone just doesn't have that kind of capabilities, we certainly can put them into something more like the bucket seat that's designed for more stabilization of the trunk.
And I guess we talked about the first two programs, the adult sailing and the disabilities, and then is the outreach the third, where you said that there were three different programs? Is that the...
Yeah, well, we've been running the outreach for the past 2 years, which is the partnering with the groups, taking their individuals out sailing. And we're continuing to do that this summer. For the past 2 years, we've been doing just sort of 1 hour excursions and exposing people to the water, giving them some tiller time, giving them some time on actually sailing the boat. This year, I've also offered out to those groups lessons, so to be able to actually teach their individuals how to sail. And
you also have outreach with children in the local schools, is that right?
We have. We've worked with the Riverview School.
Cape Cod
Collaborative, two of their programs right now. But we've also, I'd love to get involved with the public schools and things like that to get their groups out.
Because right now you're focusing on people with disabilities, but you'll also reach out to other people who might not have the opportunity to sail.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you asked about why we felt the need in the Mid-Cape. We feel that there's a real at-risk population based here, and especially specifically in the Hyannis area, that we think we can service as well. And that's, as we expand out, we want to be able to offer those services out to that, and we'll collaborate with the...
We've been talking to some groups like Cape Cod Child Development and things like that who work specifically with at-risk kids.
Yeah, we also have an educational component to it, Laura. We feel that we can do some things off the water as well. And for instance, we have access through U.S. Sailing, which is the official governing body for the sport, a curriculum for a STEM program. It's targeted towards a fourth grade level. We're not there yet, but we foresee that as being one opportunity that we may have again to reach out to at-risk kids. It may be an after-school program. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the summer months. It could even be in the off-season. So there's a lot of things that we can do in that basis. We also offer educational programs for certification for CPR first aid, safe boating certification. So we do have an educational mission in that regard. So it's all educational, whether it's teaching on the water or whether it's classroom instruction.
And it sounds like you have a lot of ideas for moving forward. And in the last couple of minutes, how can people get involved with Sail Cape Cod? Are there ways they can find out more information, donate? What things do you need?
Absolutely. I have 2 staff this summer, but for the most part, we are a volunteer-based organization. So you can find out more information at our website, sailcapecod.org, or you can email me at info@sailcapecod.org. Another cool thing we have coming up is on this Friday we have a night at the museum that we're hosting at the Cape Cod Maritime Museum, where we're going to be unveiling our adaptive boat, and our staff and board of directors will be there to answer questions. We'll have music featured by Chandler Travis, and a raw bar, and some good food. So you can get tickets for that, again, at our website, sailcapecod.org, or at the Maritime Museum itself.
Sounds like a great night. And unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you so much, Bryony Scudder and Mike Trovato from Sail Cape Cod, for being with me here today.
Thank you for having us.
Laura.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal.
This podcast is a presentation of Cape Cod Broadcasting, which is solely responsible for its content. Thank you for listening. For more information, please visit us at capecodbroadcasting.com.